Ahlan wa sahlan fikum. Welcome back to another video in our series about Palestinian Arabic. Today though, I wanted to do something a little bit different and talk about some of the resources that I've used, because I've been asked by a lot of people what kind of, tools did I use, maybe like apps or, videos online or books or stuff like that. I'm sorry to disappoint a little bit, but as far as apps go, for example, Duolingo and that kind of stuff, I've never actually used any of those. Well, I've tried them out, but nothing really ever clicked. It wasn't really in my style, I guess. I don't know. So what I used instead was a series of sort of a patchwork of different resources that I found here and there. So I want to share some of those with you. As you may or may not know, I used to work in a bookstore, and we had a lot of different tools, books in order to learn how to speak different types of Arabic, mainly Fusha, but there were a handful of titles about Palestinian Arabic, or more broadly Levantine Arabic. But what I found was that a lot of those had a problem with romanizing things, where in fact everything would be romanized and there would be no actual Arabic text. And I found that to be difficult. As I've already spoken on this channel, it's hard to I almost think that it's harder to learn Arabic without learning the writing, and then, it's already a skill to learn how to read Arabic, but then, you're trying to learn Arabic at the same time while trying to decipher what all the romanized stuff means and how to read all that and make the appropriate sounds, which can't be written in English. So I didn't really find those very helpful. The one that I saw kind of used the most in courses and things like that, it seems to be Yalla Nihki Arabi. And so if you really want to go for one of those, I would start there. I think that's a pretty decent one. Again, it's all in English. I mean, all romanized. But if that's okay with you, then I think that's a good place to start as any. But that's not one of my personal recommendations. Now I want to move on to what I use. And what I use personally is, first of all, the best textbook, well, it is a textbook, for Palestinian Arabic and Jordanian, actually, it says in the title. It's called The 101 Most Used Verbs in Spoken Arabic, and then the subtitle is Jordan and Palestine. It's pretty much interchangeable. This book, I cannot stress this enough, this book is my Bible, my Quran. If it weren't for this book, my Arabic would not be what it is today. So if it's possible for you to get it, I highly, highly recommend it. And here's why. It's not really a textbook in the ordinary sense of it, but it's also, the title is a bit misleading, because it's also not like those books where it's just like a list of, almost like a glossary of terms. What I really like about it is that it really teaches you a lot about the language, but in a sort of sideways fashion. So it gives you a list of these 101 verbs, and then it has different chapters for all of those verbs, and then all of the different ways that you can use all of those verbs. So with a word like ija, for example, ija means to come, but then it will show you that you can use that to say jabali, which you would never, people were really impressed when I knew when I knew to use jabali, which is a contraction of ija ala bali, which means it came to my mind, meaning I got a craving, or I felt like doing something. So it has all of these really useful idiomatic expressions, but you can also, this does require a little bit of your own sort of thinking through things. Sometimes it won't tell you things very directly, but if you use all of the sample sentences and sample text, which is all written in Arabic script, but in the way that it would be in Ammiya, so it's what I do. If you really read through those sentences and everything, all of the different grammar concepts are all there. So as you work through them and decipher them, you really learn a ton about the language. And when I didn't have any sort of reference material, that was the best, because I could work through those sentences myself, and I kind of came to figure out some things by myself. Sometimes I did wish that there would be a little bit of a more explicit explanation. There were explanations of things like ism al-fa'il and ism al-maf'ul, But, it was missing a few things, but actually those are the things that I want to talk about on this channel. So I think that if you have that and then you supplement with some of these videos for things that you aren't really quite sure about, I think that's, a pretty good deal. I highly recommend that book. At the very end, there's also like tons of charts where, the verbs are conjugated in all the different forms, because it won't do it like at the very, like in the chapter dealing with those verbs, it won't necessarily show you all the different conjugations, but then they're put in those different, forms and everything in the back of the book, where they're sorted according to patterns, which I find that really useful. That might sound like mambo jumbo right now, but once you see it, you'll see what I mean. Some of the different patterns and things that I'm going to talk about later, in later videos, you'll see that those are all covered, and it just gives you tons of verbs. In addition to the 101, once you get to that section with the patterns, each pattern will have like its own 20 verbs, and you don't have to like learn all of them, but it's a really great glossary that I just haven't really found anywhere else. So whenever I wanted to like check what a word was, sometimes, it's not indexed the best, but you can work through it a little bit and you can find those words that you were like trying to figure out how to say this or that. Just kind of scan, and eventually you'll find stuff that you wouldn't find like on the internet, because Amiya is notoriously not online, so it's hard to find those words otherwise. So I really highly recommend this book. Again, all of it is in Arabic writing. Stuff that is in Arabic, otherwise explanations and things are in English. And it also has audio of all the sentences and everything, so you can really hear what it sounds like. I can't stress this enough. If it hadn't been for this book, I got this book and I studied it like my life depended on it for about a month, and my Arabic went from here to, oh my gosh, it really made a difference. So I would say that that's the most useful resource, but there's another one that I recommend. There's this book that's it's just called Standard Arabic, an elementary to intermediate course, and it's for Fusha technically, but the thing is that it really speeds through all the various sort of grammatical features of Arabic in general, which apply both for Fusha but also for Ammiya. And because it sort of speeds through them without like all the different exercises and things that a normal, class-oriented textbook would go for, it's pretty useful as a sort of reference. What I would do if I had to start over again, I would have both of those books with me. I would use the Standard Arabic book to sort of acquaint myself with the various, grammatical like things that are different about Arabic that as a new learner I would be completely foreign to, but instead of learning maybe like the vocab and the stuff that they would provide and look at the conversations that they provide, I would look instead to the Ammiya book, because that would have sort of the vocabulary and the verbs and all those things that I would want to learn instead of these ones, but these ones would then have the sort of grammar that I would want to be aware of. Of course, there are some grammatical adaptations in Ammiya, but I still think that if you're a real beginner, this is a very useful textbook, because it doesn't have all those things where it's like activities like, online activities, or, talk to your classmate, or, write this thing for your teacher. Like, for self-learners, that's not really useful, so it kind of cuts all that stuff that you don't need, and it just keeps the bare bones of what you really need to know. Lastly, I have a few online resources that are not like books or anything. One, if you don't know it already, is Wiktionary. Oh my gosh, I cannot stress enough how useful Wiktionary is. It is amazing. So Wiktionary, basically, it's a dictionary. It's associated with Wikipedia. But the thing is, they have like all the languages ever on there, basically, and it's a really amazing resource, and I used it a lot. The only problem is that it's mostly for Fusha. Technically everything that is written under Arabic is Fusha, but there's a lot of overlap between Ammiya and Fusha. I would say honestly that these 101 verbs, like the ones in the book, once you know those, a lot, not all, but a lot of the stuff that you learn after that is going to be a little bit more complex to the point where you would be able to find it somewhere like Wiktionary. You know, like more complex verbs, there's really no, I mean, there's no reason for there to be a sort of specific Amiya word for it. So I find that once you have the 101 verbs reference sort of tool, Wiktionary is pretty useful for everything outside of that. I mean, just make sure to be a little bit careful, you know, don't take it for granted that, oh yeah, that's definitely the word, because you might still be a little bit misled. But overall, it's really useful, also gives you, you know, all the conjugations, all that kind of stuff that you would ever need. There's also like even entries for roots themselves, so it'll show you all the different ways that you could put that root in, and so the different verb forms, all that stuff. It's really, really useful. Now I want to talk about something that is, I love this, honestly. I know it's kind of goofy, but there's a channel, actually. So in English, it's just called Our Family Life. It's a cartoon. And the way that it works is it's about a Jordanian family, apparently. I believe they're from Jordan. I want to say that everything points to that. It's a very wholesome kind of cartoon. It's just about this family and what they do and various little... It's almost like for parenting, but not really. I mean, like wholesome stuff for your kids to watch on YouTube. But the thing is, they talk in Amiya, and the subtitles, because they have subtitles for these videos, these are actually, they have a lot of subscribers and stuff, actually. So, I mean, people, I think they outsource the subtitles. And so you have subtitles in English, but also, this is actually rare, actually, but they have subtitles in Amiya. I mean, they will actually, like what they're speaking in Amiya, it will be written down in Amiya and the subtitles in Arabic script. This is, I mean, I can't stress enough like how useful this is, because let's say I'm trying to watch these videos, and it's really useful because I'll just be watching. Sometimes like some words will be a little bit sort of mumbled or something, and then I can check the subtitles and be like, oh, okay, I didn't know that word, or oh, I didn't know how that was said out loud quite, you know, it sounds a bit different, so now I know. And, you know, because they deal with different topics every so often, like, I don't know, work promotion, or, you know, they were talking about like fixing the electricity, or I don't know, different various things. It's very useful, like, as you're learning, to sort of be exposed to different topics. The doctor, oh, the this or that, you know, so I found those extremely useful while I was learning. Again, just like the Arabic, I would say that it's maybe a step above the 101 verbs as a tool, you know, because the 101 verbs are very, very fundamental. They're the ones that are used the most, so it's really very fundamental verbs like go, come, arrive, eat, think, remember, I don't know, things like that. Whereas, you know, if you tried to watch the videos with no knowledge, you really wouldn't get anything. But once you have those, I mean, it's pretty useful to use both at once, and especially to sort of graduate onto the videos and sort of begin a real self-learning process, because with Amiya, I think that a lot of it is going to be self-learning just because of what's out there and the nature of it. But that's okay. I think with these resources, you'll do pretty well. The last one that I want to just mention, I mean, it's really for advanced learners, like really advanced learners. I mean, it's another YouTube channel. Even I don't really get these completely, because it's also about like political topics that are like, that I don't know that much about, so, you know. But every so often I like to watch them and just see how much I get. And I'll catch words and, okay, maybe I should learn this, or this was interesting. And this is Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera Plus. So Al Jazeera Plus has this channel that I will link. It's not like the normal Al Jazeera, which is of course like going to be in Fusha. Instead, it's sort of like, I mean, it's really just like a YouTube channel, you know, like, and they have these various hosts, and they just talk about things in Amiya. So that's cool. Actually, that's really useful, because I mean, they will talk about these complex topics, but in the same way that maybe like a group of politically interested friends, of course, would be talking about these things in the dialect. So that's really useful. The only thing is that not all of the hosts have the Levantine dialect, So you have to know who's who to make sure that you're watching ones that are not like in the Egyptian dialect. With those go completely over my head. But you know, the ones that are in the Jordanian dialect are very useful and they're very cool. But it's more of an advanced resource. But hey, I mean, some of you out there might be at that level, so it's worth a shot and worth checking out. They're interesting videos too anyway, so it's worth it, even like with the subtitles or something like that. So that's all I got for now. Those were 4+1 resources that you could use to get started with Arabic, or really at any level. Even if you're a total beginner and you really just need to learn how Arabic even works, if you need to learn the bare minimum verbs, if you want to learn more sort of conversational stuff and what Arabic would sound like in real life, in real situations, and even if you are at a more advanced level and want to get into like deeper topics but still working through the dialect. Anyway, that's all I got for now. More videos soon, and I'll see you next time. Ma salame.